October 23rd, 1944, 06:12 hours. Mortain, Normandy, France. Obergefreiter Hans Müller pressed himself deeper into the muddy foxhole. The fog hung like wet wool over the Norman hedgerows, thick enough to chew. Through the grey shroud, he heard Gefreiter Klaus Weber's voice 20 meters ahead. Young, scared. "Hans, I can't see anything. My scope, it's fogged completely." Müller knew Weber well, 21 years old, married 6 months ago to a girl named Greta back in Munich. Weber carried her photo in his helmet, showed it every morning like a talisman. "When this is over, Hans, when we get home." The fog reduced visibility to less than 150 yards, perfect conditions for advance. The Americans couldn't possibly see through this soup. No one could. The crack of a rifle shot split the morning air. Weber's helmet snapped backward. His body crumpled like a marionette with cut strings. Müller froze. His heart hammered against his ribs. No muzzle flash. No sound except the bullet's arrival. Where did the shot come from? Feldwebel Otto Schneider's voice crackled through the fog somewhere to the left. "Second company, advance! Use the fog cover! Move now!" 20 men rose from their positions, crouched low, began moving forward through the mist. The first man fell at 20 meters. Headshot, clean, instant. The second collapsed at 40 meters. Chest shot, didn't even cry out. The third made it 60 meters before a bullet found him. He spun sideways, fell face first into the mud. 4 men down in 90 seconds, all from the same general direction, all without any visible enemy position. Müller had survived 3 years on the Eastern Front. He knew the sound of Russian snipers, the tactics of partisan sharpshooters, the patterns of danger. This was different, terrifyingly different. What Müller didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that 280 yards away, in the second floor of an abandoned stone farmhouse, an American sniper watched through crystal-clear optics while every German soldier fumbled with fogged scopes and rain-blurred vision. The weapon was a Springfield 1903 A4 rifle, standard issue for American military snipers, accurate to 800 yards in perfect conditions. The modification was a 3-cent condom stretched over the scope lens, thin latex that blocked moisture while remaining optically transparent. The man behind the rifle was Staff Sergeant William Edward Caldwell, 24 years old, tobacco farmer's son from Granville County, North Carolina. He had never fired a rifle in anger before Pearl Harbor. In the next 2 hours, Caldwell would achieve what military historians would later call the most devastating individual sniper performance in the European theater. 48 confirmed kills. 2 hours. One position. One forbidden trick that could mean court-martial or firing squad. But first, there was the shot that started everything. Caldwell exhaled slowly, watching the German 5-man patrol through his scope. The optics remained impossibly clear despite the heavy fog that blanketed the field. 300 yards. The Germans moved cautiously, weapons ready, eyes scanning. They were blind. Beside Caldwell, Private First Class James Parker whispered, his voice barely audible. "Billy, your scope. How the hell can you see anything? I can't see past 100 yards through these binoculars." Caldwell's finger rested lightly on the trigger. 3 pounds of pressure. 3-cent trick, Jimmy. Best investment the Army never made. Parker peered through his fogged binoculars again, squinting uselessly into the grey void. "I can't see shit. They're going to ask questions about this." "Let them ask. Baker Company's counting on us." Through the scope, magnified 8 times, the German patrol leader appeared. A Hauptmann, captain's insignia visible on his collar. He stood, studying a map, completely exposed, utterly unaware. Caldwell's orders had been clear, crystal clear. Observe enemy movements and report back to battalion. Do not engage unless directly attacked. Under no circumstances compromise position by firing. But Caldwell had watched these Germans for the past hour. He had watched them set up interlocking fields of fire, establish machine gun positions, range their mortars. Every position aimed directly at the exact route 2nd Battalion would use in 4 hours when they advanced toward the river crossing. 300 American soldiers would walk straight into a prepared kill zone. The Germans would cut them to pieces. Engage now, save 300 lives, risk court-martial, or follow orders and watch Americans die. Caldwell's decision took exactly 2 seconds. His breathing slowed. The German officer remained still, completely focused on his map. Perfect target, crosshairs center mass, wind from left to right, approximately 3 miles per hour, range 304 yards. Caldwell's hand moved to the scope adjustment, 1 click right to compensate. Inhale. The air filled his lungs, oxygenated his blood. Hold. The world narrowed to the circle of his scope, the German officer, the gentle pressure on the trigger. Squeeze. Not pull. Squeeze like pressing a button. Gradual, controlled, inevitable. The rifle kicked against his shoulder. The sound cracked across the field. The .30-06 round, traveling at 2,800 feet per second, covered 304 yards in roughly half a second. The German officer's chest erupted red. He dropped instantly, the map fluttering from his hands. The 4 remaining Germans dove for cover, spinning, searching, weapons raised but aiming at nothing, blind in the fog. Parker whispered urgently, "Holy shit! They have no idea where you are. They're completely blind." Caldwell was already working the bolt, chambering the next round. Smooth, mechanical. They can't see through the fog. I can. That's the whole game. One of the Germans, an Unteroffizier with radio operator insignia and an antenna visible above his position, crouched behind a hedgerow. His hands fumbled with the radio handset, speaking frantically into the transmitter. "Command, we are under fire. Cannot identify shooter position. Visibility 0. Repeat, cannot identify." Caldwell's second shot ended the transmission. The radio operator fell forward, the headset still attached to his head, the message forever unfinished. The radio lay abandoned in the mud. The Germans had just lost their communication link to battalion headquarters. 3 remaining Germans attempted retreat. They ran low, zigzagging, trying to present difficult targets. Professional soldiers using proper evasion tactics. Caldwell tracked the first runner through his scope. The man moved right to left, fast. Caldwell led him by 2 feet, accounting for movement and distance. Squeezed. The German jerked sideways like he had been clotheslined, fell hard, didn't move. Parker called corrections, his voice steady despite the situation. "Second target, 280 yards, moving right to the stone wall." Caldwell found him in the scope, fired, another clean hit. The last German made it to a low stone wall. He thought he was safe, thought the wall provided cover. He waited 30 seconds, chest heaving, then peeked out quickly to look for his squad, to understand what was happening. Caldwell had been waiting for exactly that moment. Shot number 5. 5 men, 90 seconds, all dead. Parker's hands shook slightly as he pulled out his small notebook, the one he kept for after-action documentation. He wrote carefully, his handwriting surprisingly neat despite the circumstances. 0612 to 0614 hours, 5 kills. Range 280 to 340 yards. Billy's scope crystal clear. Germans completely blind. They never saw us, never identified our position. Caldwell pulled back from the window, checking his rifle automatically. The condom stretched over his scope now had 5 small bullet holes punched through the latex, but the material remained intact, still protecting the lens from the moisture-heavy air. Parker stared at him, really looked at him. 22 years old, this Kentucky coal miner's son who had become a spotter because he could read wind better than anyone in the division. "Billy, they're going to hang you for this. You just violated direct orders, compromised our position, engaged without authorization." Caldwell met his spotter's eyes, held the gaze. Maybe they will, but Baker Company's going to live. Collins, Rizzo, Wilson, all those boys advancing at 1,000 hours. They're going home to their families. Through the fog, they heard German voices, shouting, confused, orders being barked. the sounds of an enemy force that had just discovered they were being hunted by something they couldn't see, couldn't locate, couldn't fight. More targets were coming, many more. To understand how a tobacco farmer's son from North Carolina became the most effective killer in Normandy that morning, we need to go back. Back to a small town where population barely cracked 800. Back to a father who survived one war and raised a son who would excel in another. Back to the moment when Billy Caldwell learned to see what others couldn't. May 1928, Granville County, North Carolina. The town didn't have a name most people would recognize. Population 847, according to the faded sign at the county line. One main street, a general store, a Baptist church. Tobacco farms stretching to the horizon in every direction, the crop that kept the region alive. Billy Caldwell stood in his father's field, 8 years old, holding a Remington .22 rifle that seemed almost as tall as he was. The weapon felt heavy in his small hands, the wood stock smooth from years of use. His father, Frank Caldwell, pointed toward a crow perched on a fence post 50 yards distant. The bird sat motionless, black against the morning sky. "That bird right there," Frank said, his voice carrying the flat vowels of rural North Carolina, "eats 10 tobacco seeds every single day. We got 30 days until planting season starts. You do the math, son." Billy calculated in his head, the way his teacher had shown him in the one-room schoolhouse. 300 seeds. That's almost a quarter of our whole crop, Pa. Exactly right. Can't afford to buy scarecrows, can't afford to lose a quarter of the harvest neither. You need to protect what's ours. That's what men do. We protect what's ours. Frank Caldwell was a great war veteran. He had fought at Belleau Wood with the Marines, come home with shrapnel still lodged in his left leg, and a limp he would carry the rest of his life. The steel mill wouldn't hire cripples, they said. So Frank worked the tobacco farm his father had left him, worked it hard, worked it well despite the pain that never quite left. "Now listen careful," Frank continued. "Don't aim where that crow is right now. Aim where it's going to be when the bullet gets there. You got to think ahead. Predict. Understand?" Billy raised the rifle. Too high at first. Frank's hand gently lowered the barrel. Billy aimed, his heart pounding, and squeezed the trigger the way his father had taught him. The rifle cracked. The crow exploded into flight, completely unharmed. "Again," Frank said simply. The crow landed on another post, 60 yards now, farther away. Billy raised the rifle, aimed, fired. Another miss. The crow took flight again, landed 70 yards out. Billy's hands began to shake. The weight of failure pressed down on his small shoulders. "Pa, I can't do it. I'm not good enough." Frank's hand settled on his son's shoulder, firm and warm. "You can do it. You will do it. Because if you don't, we lose this farm. And I didn't survive France, so my family could starve here in North Carolina. Now aim." Billy took a deep breath, steadied himself, raised the rifle a third time. The crow seemed impossibly far away now. He aimed not at the bird, but at the space just ahead of it, where it might fly, where it might move. He squeezed the trigger. The crow fell. Frank Caldwell smiled, a rare expression on his weathered face. His hand squeezed his son's shoulder. "That's my boy. You got something special, Billy. A gift. You see motion before it happens. You understand how things move through space. That's rare. Real rare." Over the next 8 years, Billy developed that gift. Every morning before school, he walked the fields with the .22, hunting the squirrels and crows that threatened the crops. By age 10, he could kill 12 squirrels in 40 minutes, even during the heavy fog that rolled in from the Tar River on summer mornings. Fog so thick, most people couldn't see 20 feet. His father watched one of those foggy mornings, amazed, as Billy methodically worked through his targets with mechanical precision. "Most folks can't see their hand in front of their face in soup like this. But you, son, you see different. You see what's there even when it ain't clear." At 14, Billy repaired a broken tractor engine, using only a file and springs salvaged from an old pocket watch. His father found him in the barn, the engine disassembled completely, parts organized with careful precision. "How do you know how to fix that?" Frank asked. Billy looked up, oil on his hands and face. "I could see how it was supposed to work, Pa. Not how it was broken, how it should work. Then I just made it work that way." Frank nodded slowly. "You see how things ought to be, not how you're told they are. That's going to serve you well someday, son, or get you in a heap of trouble. Probably both." At 16, Billy modified his .22 rifle. He used reading glasses from the general store and brass tubing from spent artillery shells he found at the county dump. He fashioned a crude scope that extended his accurate range from 100 yards to nearly 200. Total cost, 35 cents. When Frank discovered the modification, he didn't know whether to be proud or concerned. "Don't tell your mother about this. She'll say you're too clever for your own good." But Billy, that kind of thinking right there, seeing solutions nobody else sees, that'll save your life someday. You remember that. December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor. Billy Caldwell, 21 years old, stood in the tobacco field with a radio pressed to his ear. The announcement crackled through static. Japanese aircraft. Surprise attack. Hundreds dead. America at war. His younger brother, Thomas, 18, came running from the house. "Billy, did you hear? We got to enlist. We got to go fight." "Pa needs us for harvest," Billy said, but his voice carried no conviction. Their father emerged from the house. He had heard the radio too. He limped across the yard on his bad leg, the leg that still carried French shrapnel, and looked at his two sons. "The tobacco can wait," Frank said quietly. "Your country can't. That's just the truth of it." Billy met his father's eyes. "Pa, if I go, Thomas stays. The family needs one son here to help." Thomas started to protest, but Frank raised his hand, silencing him. "You both go," Frank said. "You both serve. That's what Caldwell men do. We serve when called. No exceptions, no special treatment." They enlisted on December 8th, 1941, less than 24 hours after the attack. Billy went infantry. Thomas chose airborne, wanted to jump out of airplanes, wanted the excitement. Different divisions, different training camps, different wars waiting for them. They would never see each other again. Billy Caldwell arrived at Camp Perry, Ohio in April 1942 for sniper training. The school lasted 8 weeks. German snipers trained for 6 months. Russian snipers trained for a full year. But American doctrine didn't emphasize creating super soldiers. It emphasized creating adequate soldiers with superior equipment, then producing enough of them to overwhelm any enemy through sheer numbers and industrial capacity. He met James Parker on the second day. Jimmy was a coal miner's son from eastern Kentucky, 22 years old, with eyes that could read wind patterns like some men read books. They became a team, sniper and spotter, 2 parts of a single weapon system. The instructor, Staff Sergeant Marcus Reed, a veteran of the Great War like Billy's father, walked between the rows of trainees on the first day. "German snipers train 6 months, Reed announced. "Russians train a year. You get 8 weeks. Some of you are wondering if that's enough. It ain't, but it's what you got. Make it count." In the second week, Billy scored perfect on the moving target drill. Every shot, every target. Reed pulled him aside afterward. "You ever done this before, farm boy?" "Squirrels don't hold still, Sergeant. You learn to lead them or you don't eat." Week 5 brought the situational patience test. Students had to remain motionless in a hide for 6 hours, couldn't move, couldn't talk, couldn't scratch an itch, just lie there watching, waiting, being invisible. 12 of the 24 students failed. They moved, talked, gave away their positions. Billy Caldwell didn't blink for 4 straight hours, didn't shift position, became part of the landscape. The instructors actually got nervous, thought something might be wrong with him. Parker whispered afterward, "Jesus, Billy, you part reptile or something? How'd you do that?" Reed understood. He pulled Billy's file, read the background. Tobacco farmer. Spent entire days sitting motionless in fields, watching for crows and pests, protecting crops. Hours and hours of enforced stillness had created a psychological capacity most soldiers never developed. "Your childhood made you a sniper," Reed told him during week 8. "Most men, we have to train that patience into them. You already got it, had it since you were 8 years old sitting in tobacco fields. That's why you're here." Billy graduated top of his class. They gave him a Springfield 1903 A4 rifle with a Weaver M73B1 scope, serial number 3426891. He memorized it. The rifle cost the Army $167 to produce. His training cost approximately $10,000. Staff Sergeant Reed's final words stayed with him. "That rifle's worth $167. Your training's worth 10 grand. But you, farm boy, you're worth whatever you save. Don't waste any of it." June 7, 1944. Normandy, France, D-Day +1. Billy Caldwell landed on Omaha Beach 24 hours after the initial invasion. The beach still looked like hell. Destroyed equipment, abandoned positions, the smell of death thick in the air. He joined the 2nd Infantry Division with Jimmy Parker. They moved inland through the Norman hedgerows, the bocage country that turned every field into a fortress, every lane into a death trap. The first night in a muddy hedgerow, it rained. It rained hard. Billy tried to use his scope and discovered it was completely fogged. Useless. Couldn't see through it at all. Parker had the same problem with his binoculars. "My optics are completely fucked. Can't see anything through this moisture." "German scopes are better," Billy muttered, wiping futilely at his lens. "Zeiss optics, sealed systems. Ours fog up every single time it rains." "Yeah," Parker agreed, "and it rains every goddamn day in this country." Over the next 3 weeks, Billy got 17 confirmed kills, below average for division snipers. Other shooters were hitting 25, 30 kills in the same time frame. The problem was obvious. Billy lost every engagement in bad weather. Rain, fog, heavy moisture. His scope fogged, he couldn't see, he couldn't shoot. And bad weather happened 50% of the time in Northwest Europe. On June 15th, Billy met Corporal Robert Hayes. Bobby was 23, a Montana ranch hand who had hunted elk in conditions that would stop most men cold. Expert marksman, new sniper just assigned to the division. They bonded immediately over the same frustration. "Back home," Bobby said, "I hunt in snow, rain, wind, whatever. Here, can't see shit through this scope. What's the point of being a sniper if you can't see?" Parker added, "German scopes got proper sealing systems. Ours don't. Doctrine says quick target acquisition matters more than weather protection. Doctrine's written by people who don't get shot at." Billy nodded. "Doctrine's written by people in Washington who've never been wet, cold, and hunted." The three became friends. 3 snipers fighting the same war against the same enemy. Not Germans, moisture. Then June 28th happened. Then everything changed forever. Morning patrol. Routine sector check near a small village whose name Billy never learned. Intelligence said the area was clear, safe, just a quick sweep. The patrol consisted of Billy, Parker, Hayes, and 8 riflemen. One of those riflemen was Private First Class Thomas Morrison, 23 years old, from Boston, married with 2 daughters, Annie, age 6, and Rose, age 4. Tommy showed everyone his helmet photo that morning. He did this monthly when new letters arrived from home with updated pictures. "Look how big they're getting," Tommy said, his Boston accent thick and warm. "Annie just started 1st grade. Rose can write her name now. Ain't that something?" Parker asked the question everyone always asked. "How long till rotation, Tommy?" 17 days, Tommy said, smiling so wide his whole face lit up. 17 more days, and I'm on a boat home. Gonna teach Annie to ride that bicycle her grandpa bought her. Promised I would." Billy remembered thinking, "Lucky bastard. 17 days and he's done. He's going home." The patrol moved through a hedgerow at 10:15 hours. Tommy walked point because he volunteered, said he wanted to stay sharp for the last 17 days, didn't want to get sloppy. Billy covered from 20 yards back, rifle ready. A German soldier rose from a concealed foxhole. One man, alone, probably a straggler from a retreating unit. He carried an MP-40 submachine gun. Tommy's M1 Garand jammed. The bolt didn't cycle. Wet ammunition from 3 days of rain, standard equipment failure that happened to thousands of soldiers in the wet European theatre. Tommy fumbled with the rifle, trying to clear it, his training kicking in automatically. He looked back at Billy. His eyes were wide, scared, understanding what was about to happen. The German fired, a 3-round burst at close range. The bullets caught Tommy in the upper thigh, femoral artery. Billy saw the blood spray, bright arterial red, pumping in rhythm with Tommy's heartbeat. Billy killed the German with one shot, didn't think, didn't aim consciously, just fired. The German dropped. Billy ran to Tommy, covered the 20 yards faster than he thought possible. Tommy collapsed, his leg pumping blood through Billy's fingers as he pressed down hard on the wound. "Medic!" Billy screamed. "Medic! Now!" Tommy's face went white, shock setting in fast, his body understanding that it was dying, even if his mind hadn't accepted it yet. "Billy," Tommy whispered, "tell my girls. Tell Annie and Rose." "You're going to tell them yourself," Billy said, pressing harder, his hands slick with blood. "Stay with me, Tommy. Stay here. Medic's coming. Tell them their daddy loved them. Tell them Tommy died. Mid-sentence, eyes open, looking directly at Billy. The light just went out. The medic arrived 30 seconds too late, looked at the wound, looked at Billy, shook his head. Billy knelt in Tommy's blood. It covered his hands, his uniform, warm and sticky. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. Parker pulled him away, had to physically drag him. Billy, he's gone. We gotta move. We gotta get out of here." That night, Billy sat alone in a captured German bunker. The rest of the unit had moved to a different position, but Billy stayed behind, staring at nothing. His hands still shook. Tommy's blood had dried brown on his uniform. Parker found him there at 2300 hours. "Billy, you okay?" Billy's voice came out flat, dead. His rifle jammed. Wet ammunition. Standard issue equipment. It jammed and he died because of it. "That's combat," Parker said carefully. "Equipment fails. Men die. That's just how it is." "His daughters are 6 and 4, Billy said, still staring at nothing. "Annie and Rose, they're never going to remember their father. Not really. They're too young. In 10 years, he'll just be photographs and stories other people tell them, because a $5 rifle jammed in the rain." Parker sat down beside him, said nothing. Sometimes there was nothing to say. Billy looked at his Springfield rifle leaning against the bunker wall, looked at the scope with its persistent fogging problem. "No more," he said quietly. "No more what? No more Marines die because equipment failed. No more daughters lose their fathers because some engineer in Ohio decided weather sealing wasn't important. No more Annie and Rose Morrisons." Parker watched his friend carefully. "Billy, what are you talking about?" Billy's voice went cold in a way Parker had never heard before. "I don't care about regulations anymore. I don't care about doctrine or proper channels or official procedures. I'm fixing this problem. Tonight." That night, Billy Caldwell made a decision that would either save hundreds of American lives or end with him in front of a firing squad. Possibly both. The work that would change everything began with a joke and a 3-cent piece of latex. July 1st through October 3rd, 1944. The problem became impossible to ignore. Billy Caldwell kept careful statistics in a small notebook, separate from Parker's official spotter log. The numbers told a brutal story. M1 scope, maximum effective range in clear conditions, 500 yards. In rain or fog, 200 yards maximum, before moisture made the optics completely unusable. German sniper positions, consistently 600 yards or more. A safe zone beyond American capability. American sniper casualties in 2nd Division between June and September. 27 men killed. Every single one of them shot from beyond 500 yards, while they watched helplessly, unable to return effective fire through fogged optics. Billy reported the problem through official channels. Captain Richard Morrison listened, nodded sympathetically, and gave him the answer that came from higher up the chain of command. "Be more careful out there, Sergeant." Translation: "We're not fixing it. Work with what you have. Make do." Billy tried the German solution. lens caps like their snipers used. It created new problems worse than the original. Removing caps before shooting meant movement, and movement meant compromising position. Fumbling with covers in the critical seconds before a shot meant dead Americans. And the caps didn't solve internal fogging anyway. Moisture still condensed on the inside of the scope where no cap could reach. By October, Billy had watched 6 more American soldiers die beyond his effective range. 6 more men who didn't have to die. 6 more families destroyed because of an engineering problem nobody in Washington seemed to care about solving. He was done waiting for official solutions. October 3rd, 1944. A captured German bunker. Rain hammered the concrete roof in steady rhythm. Billy, Parker, and Hayes rested during an operational pause, a rare, quiet moment between actions. Parker sat cleaning his scope with a cloth, muttering steady complaints. "God-damn moisture gets inside the lenses, not just on the outside, inside. German scopes have proper sealing systems, multiple layers, precision engineering. Ours don't have shit." Hayes nodded agreement. "My pa used to wrap his hunting rifle in oilcloth during Montana snowstorms. Kept everything dry, kept the rifle working. Maybe we need something like that." Parker laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Maybe we should just wrap rubbers over our scopes. You know, like we wrap them over our dicks. Keep the moisture out the same way." Silence. Billy's head came up. He stared at Parker. "Say that again." Parker blinked. "I was joking, Billy." "No, say it again. Exactly what you just said."
"Rubbers? Like condoms? I was just joking around, man."
Billy pulled his wallet from his pocket. Every soldier carried 3 condoms as part of standard issue. Not for recreation, for keeping rifle barrels dry during river crossings, for protecting documents from moisture, for a dozen field expedient uses. Billy removed one, held it up to the dim light filtering through the bunker entrance. "It's latex," he said slowly, his mind working through the problem like he used to work through broken tractor engines as a teenager. Thin, transparent, completely waterproof. He stretched the condom over his scope's objective lens. The latex expanded easily, fitting snug over the glass. He looked through the scope at the far wall of the bunker. Parker leaned forward. "Well, does it work?" "I can see perfectly. Crystal clear. The latex is thin enough that it doesn't distort the image." Hayes asked the critical question. "But can you shoot through it? Will the bullet penetrate without deflection?" Billy met his eyes. "Only one way to find out." October 5th, 1944. Heavy rain. Patrol near the town of Flares. The kind of weather that normally meant Billy sat useless, his scope fogged, watching the war happen around him. A German MG-42 position was spotted at 280 yards. Machine gun team setting up interlocking fields of fire. Standard defensive position. Billy's scope, protected by the condom stretched over the lens, remained crystal clear. He could see every detail. The gunner, the assistant feeding ammunition, the team leader directing placement. Parker's binoculars, with no protection, were completely fogged. "I can't see shit, Billy. You got eyes on target?" "Perfect clarity. I can count the buttons on his uniform." The German machine gunner settled into position behind his weapon. Never knew he was being watched. Billy fired. The bullet punched through the thin latex like it wasn't there. The condom remained intact, with one small hole. The German fell. Parker strained to see through his fogged binoculars. "Hit? Did you get him?" Billy was already chambering another round, his voice calm. "Direct hit. And Jimmy, the condom's still on the scope, still completely clear. One bullet hole, but it's still working." The realization hit them both simultaneously. Bullets could penetrate the latex without deflection or significant impact on accuracy. One condom could survive multiple shots. The modification actually worked. Over the next 10 days, Billy refined the technique and shared it. Hayes tried it first, killed 3 Germans in heavy fog the following day. Hayes told 2 more snipers. They succeeded. Word spread organically through 2nd Infantry Division's sniper sections. No official approval requested. No paperwork filed. no permission asked.
Pure grassroots innovation, soldier to soldier, the kind of information sharing that happened in foxholes and bunkers, the real network that kept men alive. By October 15th, an estimated 30 to 40 American snipers were using what they called the rubber trick. The Quartermaster Corps eventually heard rumors. They investigated, tested the concept, confirmed effectiveness. Their response was quintessentially American and pragmatic. They began including condoms in sniper equipment kits. Official documentation listed them as covers, optical, latex, moisture protection. Everyone knew the real purpose. Nobody cared about dignity or proper procedures. It worked. That was enough. German optical technology remained superior in most respects. Zeiss scopes offered better clarity, better construction, elaborate sealing systems, precision lens coatings, weather protection through careful engineering. But German solutions required removal before use. Lens caps had to come off. Actions that took time, created movement, generated noise. The American approach cost 3 cents, weighed less than half an ounce, could be replaced in seconds. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't engineered, it was a condom stretched over a scope. But it worked perfectly. The cultural difference was profound. German military culture couldn't accommodate using prophylactics as military equipment. Too undignified, too crude, not proper. American soldiers raided medical supplies and solved problems themselves without waiting for officers to approve solutions. This difference would prove tactically decisive on the morning of October 23rd. October 22nd, 1944, 2100 hours, the night before everything. Billy and Parker received orders. Occupy the abandoned farmhouse overlooking the Mortain approach route. Intelligence reported German 746th Grenadier Regiment, approximately 300 men, likely to probe American positions at dawn. Billy prepared the position with the methodical care his father had taught him. Every detail mattered. Every decision could mean life or death.
Second floor, southeast window, elevation advantage of 15 feet. Fields of fire covering 360 degrees. Range markers established and memorized. 100 yards to the hedgerow, 200 yards to the large tree, 300 yards to the stone wall, 400 yards to the collapsed barn. He sketched the kill zones by hand, drawing sight lines, noting dead space, marking potential approach routes. Equipment check. Springfield 1903A4, serial number 3426891. 120 rounds of .30-06 ammunition, each round inspected individually for defects. Fresh condom placed over the scope at 0500 hours, before the fog rolled in. Parker's binoculars also protected. At 22:30 hours, Billy and Parker sat in darkness on the second floor, waiting for dawn. The farmhouse smelled of old stone and abandonment. Parker broke the silence, his voice quiet.
Billy, you ever think about the guys you kill? I mean, really think about them.
Billy was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that hadn't been there 3 months ago. Every day, I see their faces. Through the scope, 8-power magnification. You see them so clearly. You see their expressions, what they're thinking. Young, old, scared, confident. You see all of it. Does it get easier? No, it gets harder, because you remember all of them. 24 confirmed kills so far. I can describe every single one, what they were wearing, how they fell, the expression on their face when the bullet hit. Parker absorbed this. Jesus, Billy. That's why we're doing this. The condom trick, the modifications, all of it. So American soldiers don't become faces that someone else remembers. So fewer families get telegrams. That's the only thing that makes it bearable.
What Billy didn't know, couldn't know, was that in 8 hours he would kill more men in 2 hours than most snipers killed in an entire year. And the army would have to decide whether to hang him for disobeying orders or promote him for saving hundreds of lives. At 2300 hours, Billy wrote a letter home by candlelight. His handwriting was careful, precise. Pa, remember when you said I had a gift? I'm using it now, but it's not a gift. It's a curse that keeps me alive while better men die. Tommy Morrison died last month. His rifle jammed, wet ammunition. He had 2 daughters, 6 and 4. I think about them every single day. I fixed the scope problem, used something you'd probably laugh at, but it works. Saved 6 Marines last week. But it's not authorized, not official. If they find out, could mean court-martial. Don't care anymore. Rather save lives and face charges than follow rules and watch friends die. Haven't heard from Thomas in 2 months. If you hear anything, write me. If I don't make it, tell Ma I thought about her biscuits every morning. Your son, Billy. He sealed the letter, handed it to Parker. Mail this if I don't walk out tomorrow. Parker took it, nodded, put it in his jacket pocket without a word. 2 miles away, in the German 746th Grenadier Regiment bivouac, Obergefreiter Hans Müller received his orders from Oberst Heinrich Fischer. Intelligence shows a gap in American defensive lines. We attack at 0600 hours. Weather forecast calls for heavy fog, perfect conditions for advance. The Americans won't see us coming. Müller found Klaus Weber cleaning his Mauser rifle, preparing for the morning assault. Klaus, listen to me. Tomorrow, you stay close, right next to me. I'll get you home to Greta. I promise. Weber pulled out his wallet, showed Müller the wedding photo he carried everywhere. Greta, smiling, young, beautiful, 6 months married. When this is over, Hans, when we finally get home. Feldwebel Otto Schneider joined them. 34 years old, 3 children back in Germany. Veteran since 1939, he carried authority and confidence. Tomorrow we show these Americans what real Wehrmacht discipline looks like. They can't match our training. They can't match our experience. This will be a good day. Müller nodded agreement, but something felt wrong. He had survived 3 years on the Eastern Front by trusting his instincts, and his instincts were screaming that something about tomorrow felt different, felt dangerous in a way he couldn't articulate. 0300 hours, October 23rd. The fog rolled in. Billy woke to grey darkness. Fog from the English Channel settled over the fields like a living thing, thick and impenetrable. He moved to the window. Visibility less than 150 yards. Perfect German attack weather. Parker looked out, his face grim. Jesus Christ, they'll be completely invisible in this. We won't see them until they're right on top of us. Billy stretched a fresh condom over his scope. The latex snapped into place, protecting the lens. He put his eye to the scope and looked out into the fog. Crystal clear, every detail visible. Parker tried the captured German binoculars they had found 2 weeks ago. Superior Zeiss optics with no moisture protection. I can't see a goddamn thing past 100 yards. This fog is too thick. Billy kept looking through his scope, scanning the fields. But I can see. Perfectly. 0600 hours. The Germans began their advance. Through his protected optics, Billy watched German forces forming up 600 yards distant. They thought the fog concealed them, thought they were invisible, safe, unobserved. Through the condom-protected scope, Billy saw every detail with perfect clarity. Officers organizing units, soldiers checking weapons, machine gun teams setting up support positions, 300 German soldiers preparing to advance toward American lines. 1 American sniper. 1 forbidden modification. 2 hours that would make history. Parker whispered urgently, "How many you count?" Billy tracked movement through his scope, estimating unit sizes. Battalion strength, maybe 300 total, could be more. Orders are observe and report. We're supposed to call this in, let artillery handle it. Yeah. Billy chambered around, the bolts sliding smoothly. But if I let them set up those machine gun positions, Baker Company walks into a prepared kill zone in 4 hours. 300 Americans dead. Billy, if you engage now, 300 Americans die, or I break orders and kill Germans first. That's the choice. Through the fog, the first German patrol entered his kill zone. 5 men moving cautiously at 300 yards, professional soldiers using proper tactical spacing. They couldn't see the farmhouse, had no idea they were being watched. Billy could see them perfectly, could count their equipment, could identify their ranks. Jimmy, start taking notes. Everything that happens. This goes in the official after-action report. Parker pulled out his notebook, pen ready, hands steady despite what was coming. 06:12 hours. The killing began. The German patrol leader, a Hauptmann studying his map, never saw the shot coming. He dropped instantly. His radio operator died mid-transmission, headset still attached. The 3 remaining soldiers attempted retreat. Caldwell tracked each one through his crystal-clear scope. 90 seconds. 5 men dead. Parker's log read 06:12 to 06:14 hours. 5 kills. Range 280 to 340 yards. Condom trick working perfectly. Germans completely blind. They never identified our position. Progress. 5 down. Unknown number remaining. 06:20 hours. Second wave approached. Unteroffizier Franz Becker, 32 years old, 3 children waiting in Hamburg, advanced with an 8-man squad. He carried the torn.fu.d2 radio, maintaining communication with battalion command.
Through the scope, Billy saw the antenna. High-value target. Eliminating communication would blind the German command. Billy centered his crosshairs on Becker's chest. Fired. Becker fell, the headset still attached to his head. The radio hit the ground beside him. Useless. The Germans had lost their link to headquarters. Progress. 6 down. 3 MG-42 machine gun teams set up overlapping fields of fire, deadly interlocking positions that could shred advancing infantry. Billy killed all 3 gunners within 90 seconds. Each shot precise. Each target eliminated before they could make their weapons operational. Shot 7 at 320 yards. Gunner in prone position. Shot 8 at 340 yards. Gunner adjusting tripod height. Shot 9 at 380 yards. Gunner loading ammunition belt. The German infantry now had no heavy weapons support. Their entire fire support plan collapsed. Progress. 9 down. Germans still couldn't locate the shooter. 2 Feldwebels, experienced sergeants, attempted to organize the confused soldiers, tried to establish order from chaos. Billy killed both with careful shots to center mass. Leadership eliminated. Command structure collapsing. 06:35 hours. Status. 11 Germans dead. 23 minutes elapsed. 0 return fire. The Germans were being systematically destroyed by an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't locate, couldn't fight. Parker's notebook entry. 11 confirmed. Germans panicking, moving erratically. Still no idea where Billy's position is. Condom trick, giving us complete optical superiority. What Billy didn't see was the German battalion commander calling for reinforcements. In 30 minutes, the fog would hide 60 more targets. 06:40 hours. Feldwebel Otto Schneider took command of the deteriorating situation. Schneider was a combat veteran, professional soldier. He had fought in Poland, France, Russia. He recognized a disaster unfolding and moved to stop it. He gathered the remaining 40 men of his platoon, planned a flanking maneuver supported by smoke grenades. The sniper must be in that farmhouse. We suppress with machine gun fire, deploy smoke for concealment, flank west, and assault the building. Questions? Klaus Weber, terrified, his scope completely fogged and useless, asked the question everyone was thinking. Otto, I can't see anything through my optics. How do we fight what we can't see? Schneider's jaw tightened. We fight with courage and discipline, like German soldiers. Now move. 06:45 hours. Schneider's first attempt. 20 Germans deployed smoke grenades. Grey smoke mixed with natural fog, creating what should have been impenetrable concealment. 20 more Germans provided suppressive fire with MG-42s, hundreds of rounds hammering toward the farmhouse. The problem was Billy's elevated position. 15 feet of elevation meant he could see over the top layer of smoke. The Germans moved through what they thought was complete concealment. Billy watched them clearly through his scope, every movement visible. 4 Germans fell in the smoke before Schneider understood his mistake. The smoke wasn't hiding them, it was just marking their position. Progress. 15 down. Smoke tactic completely failed. 06:50 hours.
Schneider tried a different approach. 3 scouts crawled through tall grass toward the farmhouse, low to the ground, invisible in the vegetation. Professional infiltration technique. For the first time that morning, Billy lost visual contact, couldn't see them through the grass. Parker spotted movement through his binoculars. Billy, 11 o'clock, 220 yards, grass moving against the wind pattern. Billy aimed at the movement, waited with the patience learned in tobacco fields, breathed slowly. 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds. A German scout raised his head to observe, just for a moment, just to see. Billy fired.
The scout dropped. The other 2 scouts froze, lying motionless in the grass, too terrified to move, trapped between advancing and dying. Billy's voice was calm. Let them lie there. They're not going anywhere. Progress. 16 down. 0655 to 0700 hours. Schneider's death. Otto Schneider was frustrated, desperate, and angry. 40 men had become 25. His carefully planned assault was shattered. The Americans were destroying his unit with surgical precision. He made the decision that brave, desperate men make. He stood up, exposed himself completely, rallied his men through personal courage. On me! We charge together! For the fatherland! For Germany! Advance! 15 German soldiers stood with him, good men, loyal men, brave men. Billy's crosshairs centered on Schneider's chest. He saw a brave officer leading from the front, saw a professional soldier doing his duty, saw a man with 3 children at home. He also saw Tommy Morrison's face, saw Annie and Rose Morrison, who would never know their father. Billy squeezed the trigger. Schneider fell. The 14 remaining Germans watched their leader die. Morale shattered like glass. They scattered, running in different directions, abandoning formation, abandoning discipline, abandoning everything except the desperate need to survive. Billy killed 7 of them as they fled, each shot mechanical, precise, emotionless. Parker's voice held tension. Billy, they're running away, they're retreating. Billy's voice was flat, dead. Orders are maximum casualties. That's what I'm doing. The moral weight of shooting men in the back, men who couldn't fight back, men who were fleeing, settled on his shoulders. He would carry that weight for the rest of his life. 0700 hours progress. 24 Germans dead in 48 minutes. At 0705 hours, Billy Caldwell faced the hardest shot of his life, and he saw his brother's face looking back at him through the scope. Klaus Weber was still alive, hiding in a shell crater at 250 yards, hoping he was invisible in the fog, praying the American sniper couldn't see him. Through the scope, Billy saw every detail. Blonde hair, thin face, 21 years old, absolutely terrified. Weber's hands shook, his eyes were wide with fear. The German looked exactly like Thomas Caldwell. Same age, same build, same expression Billy had seen on his brother's face that last day at the train station. Billy froze. Crosshairs centered on Weber's forehead, but his finger wouldn't move. Parker's voice came quiet. Billy, target at 250, 2 o'clock. You got him? I see him. Take the shot. He's just a kid, Jimmy. So are you. So was your brother. So was Tommy Morrison. Take the shot. Klaus Weber looked directly toward the farmhouse. He couldn't see Billy, but was looking in his direction, searching desperately for the threat he knew was there but couldn't locate. For one impossible second, their eyes seemed to meet through the scope's magnification. Billy thought about Thomas, thought about Tommy Morrison, thought about Annie and Rose, thought about all the American soldiers who would die if he hesitated. He squeezed the trigger. Weber's head snapped back. His body collapsed into the crater. Billy closed his eyes, breathed heavily. His hands shook for the first time that morning. Parker's voice was gentle. Confirmed. You okay? Billy's voice was barely audible. Yeah, fine. Keep counting. He wasn't fine. Would never be completely fine again. Progress. 25 down. 7-10 hours. The Germans began withdrawing. Major Klaus Hoffmann, the battalion commander, made the decision every commander dreads. He ordered retreat. Pull back!
All units pull back. This position is a death trap. Withdraw! The Germans started retreating, carrying their wounded, trying to maintain some semblance of order and discipline. Billy continued firing at the retreating soldiers, following orders, maximum casualties, 10 more kills during the withdrawal, men running away, men carrying wounded, men who just wanted to survive. Progress, 35 down. At 0730 hours, German reinforcements arrived. Second Company, 60 fresh soldiers who hadn't witnessed the slaughter. They advanced into the same kill zone, unaware of what waited for them. Parker's voice held disbelief. Jesus Christ, Billy. More coming, a lot more. How many rounds left? 47. Billy's voice stayed calm, professional. Gonna need all of them. The next 45 minutes became a masterclass in precision shooting. Billy entered a state of mechanical efficiency, his childhood training, his father's lessons, 8 weeks at Camp Perry, 3 months in combat, all of it converging into pure execution. Shop 36. German Lieutenant directing traffic. Down. Progress. 36 down. 12 to go. Shots 37 through 40. 4 soldiers carrying wounded on stretchers. Billy shot the carriers, not the wounded. Tactical decision. Wounded men consumed enemy resources. Dead men required only burial. Progress. 40 down. 8 to go. Shots 41 through 43. 3 soldiers attempting to set up a mortar position. All 3 down before the mortar could fire a single round. Progress. 43 down. 5 to go. The rifle barrel glowed hot. Metal expanded from repeated firing. Billy's hands burned from the heat, but he didn't stop. Parker watched with growing concern. Billy, your rifle barrel's gonna melt if you keep this up. 5 more shots. That's all I need. 0750 hours. Parker suddenly stopped writing, looked at his friend. Billy, you know what you're doing right now? Billy chambered another round, not looking away from the scope. Killing Germans? You're saving Baker Company. Collins, Rizzo, Wilson, all those boys who are going to advance at 1,000 hours. They're going to walk through this field, and there won't be any Germans to shoot at them. They're going to live because of what you're doing right now. Billy's hand steadied. Then it's worth it. Everything's worth it if they live. Shot 44. Officer with binoculars coordinating movement. Down. Progress. 44 down. 4 to go. Shot 45. Machine gunner setting up suppressing fire. Down. Shot 46. Radio operator trying to restore communication. Down. Shot 47. Squad leader organizing final defensive position. Down. Progress. 47 down, 1 to go. 0758 hours, 2 minutes before Baker Company's scheduled advance. 1 German remaining. MG-42 gunner at 420 yards, setting up to cover the retreat. Last threat, final target. Billy's hands shook. Adrenaline crash beginning. Exhaustion setting in. 108 minutes of sustained precision shooting taking its toll. Parker's voice was quiet. Last one, Billy. Make it count. Billy steadied his breathing. The techniques learned years ago. Inhale, hold, crosshairs centered, gentle pressure, final shot. The German fell. 0800 hours. All clear. Parker read from his notebook, his voice filled with awe and something like horror. 0612 to 0800 hours. Duration, 1 hour 48 minutes. Rounds expended, 63. Confirmed kills, 48. Hit rate, 76%. American casualties, 0. Billy stood on shaking legs, walked to the window, looked out at the battlefield he had created. 48 bodies lay scattered across the field in various positions. Young men who woke up that morning thinking about home, who had families, who had futures. Billy leaned out the window and vomited, his body rejecting what his mind had done. Parker stood beside him. Billy? Billy wiped his mouth with a shaking hand. I'm good. Let's move to next position before they locate us. You just killed 48 men in under 2 hours. You're not good. Billy removed the condom from his scope. Over 200 bullet holes punched through the latex, but it was still intact, still functional. 3 cents worth of latex that had allowed him to achieve the impossible. "Write in the notebook," Billy said quietly. "Condom trick works. We'll continue using." What Billy didn't know was that Captain Morrison was already en route to their position, that the 48 bodies would be counted and confirmed, that within 2 hours, Billy would be standing in front of his commanding officers answering one simple question: medal or court-martial, recognition or execution, hero or criminal. The army would have to decide what to do with a soldier who saved 300 American lives by breaking every rule in the book. 1,000 hours, October 23, 1944. American infantry from Baker Company advanced through the Mortain approach route exactly as scheduled.
They moved cautiously at first, weapons ready, expecting contact. Instead, they found a battlefield that looked like an abattoir. German bodies lay scattered across 300 yards of open ground. 48 men in various positions. Some had fallen while running. Others died in fighting positions. A few lay in neat rows where they had been setting up machine gun nests. Not a single defensive position was operational. Not one machine gun ready to fire. The entire German battalion's assault capability had been surgically removed by an enemy they never saw. Captain Richard Morrison, Baker Company commander, stood in the middle of the field and counted bodies through his binoculars. His mouth hung open. He had been an infantry officer for 18 months, seen action across France, witnessed artillery barrages and tank assaults, and every variety of combat violence. He had never seen anything like this. Morrison climbed to the farmhouse second floor, found Billy and Parker still there, both covered in sweat despite the morning cold. Billy's hands shook continuously. Parker's face was pale. Morrison counted bodies again from the elevated position, more visible from up here. He counted twice to be certain. "How many?" His voice was quiet. Parker handed him the notebook without speaking. Morrison read the final entry. 48 confirmed kills, 1 hour, 48 minutes. Morrison looked up from the notebook, stared at Billy, back at the notebook. 2 men did this? Billy's voice came out flat, emotionless. 1 rifle, sir, 1 scope, 1 condom. Morrison blinked. 1 what? Billy showed him the scope. The condom stretched over the objective lens. Over 200 bullet holes punched through the latex, but still intact, still functional. Morrison held the scope carefully, examining the crude modification. His mind was working through implications, consequences, regulations violated. "You're telling me you killed 48 German soldiers because you put a rubber on your scope?" Parker found his voice. "Sir, the Germans couldn't see through the fog. Their optics were useless. We could see perfectly. That was the entire difference. That's why this happened." Morrison continued examining the scope. A 3-cent piece of latex, the simplest possible solution. "Where did you learn this technique?" "Improvised it, sir. October 3rd. Been using it for 2 weeks. Works every time." "Did you request authorization for this modification?" "No, sir." Morrison's eyes narrowed. "Why not?" Billy met his commanding officer's gaze directly. "Because Marines were dying while I waited for authorization, sir. Equipment was failing. I fixed it. Saved lives. That's what Marines do." Morrison was silent for a long moment. Then he stood. "Get your gear, both of you. You're coming with me. Battalion commander wants to see you immediately." Billy's stomach dropped. "Am I under arrest, sir?" "I don't know yet, Sergeant. I honestly don't know." "Move." 1100 hours, battalion headquarters tent. Billy sat in a folding chair facing 3 officers. Captain Morrison stood to the left. Major William Roberts, battalion commander, sat behind a field desk. Colonel James Fletcher, regimental commander, stood with arms crossed, face unreadable. The modified scope lay on the desk between them like evidence at a trial. Billy still wore his combat uniform, still dirty from the morning's action, still smelling of cordite and sweat. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. Adrenaline crash combined with fear of what was coming. Colonel Fletcher let the silence stretch. 15 seconds. 20. The tent was quiet except for distant artillery rumbling somewhere to the east. Finally, Fletcher spoke. "Do you know what you did this morning, Sergeant Caldwell?" "Yes, sir." Another pause. Fletcher's face gave away nothing.
Enlighten me. Billy kept his voice steady. Engaged 48 enemy combatants in violation of standing orders. Modified government equipment without authorization. Compromised observation position by opening fire. Disobeyed direct instruction to observe and report only, sir. Major Roberts leaned forward. That scope, you built it yourself? Modified it, sir. Standard issue M73B1 Weaver scope. Added latex moisture cover. Total cost approximately 3 cents. And you didn't think to request permission first? No, sir. Why not? Because permission takes weeks, sir. Marines die in hours. I chose to save lives. Captain Morrison spoke up. Sir, if I may, intelligence has confirmed the German 746th Grenadier Regiment was staging for a major assault on our positions. They would have hit Baker Company at 1000 hours. Intelligence estimates American casualties would have been 180 men minimum, possibly as high as 250. Colonel Fletcher's eyes remained fixed on Billy. And how many Americans did we lose this morning? Morrison's voice was firm. 0, sir. 0 casualties, because Sergeant Caldwell eliminated the entire German assault capability before they could engage our forces. Long pause. Billy could hear his own heartbeat. Major Roberts pulled out a manual, flipped to a marked page. Sergeant Caldwell, are you familiar with Article 108 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice? Destruction or damage of government property. Billy's throat was dry. Yes, sir. Maximum penalty is 5 years hard labor. Are you aware of that? Yes, sir. Roberts flipped to another page. Article 92. Failure to obey direct orders. Yes, sir. In a combat zone, maximum penalty can include execution by firing squad. Are you aware of that? Billy's hands gripped the chair arms. Yes, sir. Roberts closed the manual, looked at Colonel Fletcher. The colonel stared at Billy for another long moment. So you knowingly violated 2 articles of the UCMJ, risked court-martial and possible execution to prove what exactly? That you're smarter than the entire army procurement system? Billy's voice came out quiet but clear. To save Tommy Morrison's daughters from growing up without a father, sir. Silence. Fletcher's expression changed slightly. What? Private First Class Thomas Morrison, sir. Boston. 2 daughters, Annie age 6 and Rose age 4. Killed June 28th when his M1 Garand jammed in the rain. Standard equipment failure. Wet ammunition. Billy's voice remained level, but his hands shook harder. I watched him bleed out from a femoral artery wound. He died trying to tell me to tell his girls he loved them. I made a decision that night, sir. No more Annie and Rose Morrisons. No more Americans die because equipment fails and regulations prevent solutions. I don't care what happens to me. Those 48 Germans I killed this morning would have killed 180 Americans. That's 180 families that don't get telegrams. That's worth whatever punishment you decide. The tent was completely silent. Colonel Fletcher rubbed his temples, looked at Major Roberts, looked at Morrison, back at Billy. How many confirmed kills this morning, Sergeant? 48, sir. In how much time? 1 hour, 48 minutes, sir. Another pause. Captain Morrison spoke carefully. Sir, that's the highest single engagement kill count in division history, possibly the highest in the entire European theatre, and he achieved it with a 3-cent field modification that our entire optical engineering department never considered. Major Roberts added, a modification that's already spreading through the division. At least 30 snipers are using this technique. Results have been exceptional across the board. Colonel Fletcher stood, paced the tent, stopped, turned to face Billy. Gentlemen, here's my problem. If I give this man a silver star, I officially condone disobeying direct orders, modifying equipment without authorization, and compromising observation positions. I set a precedent that soldiers can ignore the chain of command whenever they think they have a better idea. He paused, paced again. If I court-martial him, I punish a soldier who saved 180 American lives in under 2 hours. I tell every man in this division that following regulations matters more than saving lives. I destroy morale across the entire regiment. Another pause. And if word gets out that a 3-cent field modification outperforms millions of dollars in official procurement, that a tobacco farmer with no engineering degree solved a problem our best technical minds couldn't solve, the embarrassment to the procurement system will be catastrophic. Fletcher stopped pacing, stared directly at Billy. "What the hell am I supposed to do with you, Caldwell?" Billy met the colonel's eyes.
"Sir, permission to speak freely?"
"Granted." "I don't care about medals, sir. I don't care about recognition or commendations. Court-martial me if regulations demand it. But before you do, let me teach every sniper in this division how to build this modification. Give me 24 hours. Let me show the armorers. Let me make sure no more Marines die because they can't see in the rain. Then you can do whatever you want with me." The silence stretched for 20 seconds. Colonel Fletcher looked at Major Roberts. "Major, get me the division armorer. Every sniper team in this regiment gets this modification implemented by 0600 tomorrow. That's a direct order." "Yes, sir." Fletcher turned to Morrison. "Captain, promote Sergeant Caldwell to Staff Sergeant, effective immediately." "Yes, sir." "Caldwell, you're receiving a Bronze Star, not silver, because officially this morning never happened. The after-action report will state that German forces withdrew after encountering effective resistance. No mention of 48 kills. No mention of unauthorized modifications. This stays quiet. Do you understand?" Billy's voice was steady. "Yes, sir." "And Caldwell, one more thing." "Sir?" "Next time you decide to improvise life-saving technology that makes our official equipment look like garbage, you tell me before you use it in combat. You come to me first. My heart cannot take another morning like this. Are we clear?" "Yes, sir." Fletcher's face softened slightly, almost smiled. "Dismissed." "And Caldwell?" "Sir?" "Damn fine shooting." Within 24 hours, 8 copies of the Condom scope modification were built. Every battalion sniper received the upgrade. Billy spent the day working with armorers, showing them the technique, explaining the theory, demonstrating effectiveness. Within 48 hours, 3rd Infantry Division sent requests for technical specification. Word was spreading through informal channels, sniper to sniper, unit to unit. Within 1 week, 47 modified scopes existed across the division. Cost: $1.50 total. Every device worked flawlessly. Enemy reaction came through captured documents. A German after-action report from the 746th Grenadier Regiment, dated October 23, 1944, found in December after the unit was overrun. Battalion encountered enemy sniper system of unprecedented effectiveness, operating in heavy fog conditions. Enemy marksmen demonstrated ability to engage targets at ranges exceeding 300 meters, despite visibility conditions that prevented our forces from identifying targets beyond 100 meters. Enemy optical equipment apparently unaffected by moisture that rendered our Zeiss scopes ineffective. Conservative estimate: 48 plus casualties from single position over approximately 2-hour engagement. Recommend immediate tactical adjustment. All units should withdraw to positions exceeding 1,000 meters when facing American sniper elements. German intelligence assessment captured later. New American long-range optical system detected. Likely expensive engineered solution utilizing advanced sealing technology. Recommend development of countermeasure and investigation into American optical manufacturing capability. The reality was 3 cents and 1 tobacco farmer who refused to watch friends die. October 28, 1944. Battle of Aachen. Corporal Bobby Hayes used the condom trick during heavy rain. Killed 12 Germans in 90 minutes from a church tower position. 0 equipment failures. Perfect optical clarity throughout the engagement. Hayes told other snipers afterward, "Billy Caldwell figured this out. I've used it 6 times now in bad weather. 0 failures. It works every single time. Best modification anyone's made to standard equipment." November 5, 1944. Official Quartermaster Corps memo, classified at the time, declassified in 1989. Supply all sniper teams with prophylactic devices for optical equipment protection. List in-supply manifests as covers, optical, latex, moisture protection. Quantity, 12 per sniper team. Priority, immediate implementation across all theaters. By November 15th, every 1st Army sniper kit included 12 condoms specifically for scope protection. By December, over 200 American snipers were using the technique in combat operations. By war's end in May 1945, an estimated 2,000-plus modified scopes were in active use across the European theatre. Conservative estimate of American lives saved, between 3,000 and 5,000 soldiers who didn't die because snipers could engage effectively in bad weather. Total material cost for 2,000 modifications, approximately $1,500. The official procurement equivalent, if the Army had engineered a purpose-built solution through normal channels, estimated $4.7 million in development and manufacturing costs. Return on investment, incalculable. November 10, 1944. German intelligence finally understood. A captured American sniper, not Billy, was interrogated. Under questioning, he revealed the condom trick. The Germans were stunned. Wehrmacht weapons testing report, captured after the war. American forces employ standard prophylactic latex devices for rifle scope moisture protection. Laboratory testing confirms complete effectiveness at preventing optical degradation in adverse weather conditions. Manufacturing cost estimated at less than 5 American cents per unit. Recommend immediate development of purpose-designed military specification latex covers for all Zeiss optical systems currently in service. The response from German High Command revealed everything about why they were losing. Proposal under review by Procurement Committee. Development timeline estimated 6 to 8 months, pending budget approval and factory allocation. By the time German bureaucracy approved development, the war was over. Purpose-designed covers were never manufactured. German industry was collapsing under Allied bombing. They couldn't produce basic ammunition in sufficient quantities, much less specialized sniper equipment. The cultural barrier was even more significant. German military culture couldn't accept the undignified improvisation of using prophylactics as military equipment. It was crude, it was inelegant, it wasn't proper. American soldiers didn't care about dignity, they cared about survival. December 16, 1944, the Ardennes, Battle of the Bulge. The German offensive caught American forces by surprise. Massive assault through the winter forest, heavy snow, visibility under 200 yards. Billy and Parker were positioned in a church steeple in St. Vith when the attack began. German 12th SS Panzer Division advancing in force. From 600 to 900 hours, Billy killed 22 German soldiers from the elevated position. Officers, tank commanders, artillery observers, each shot carefully selected for maximum tactical impact. The key kill came at 0745 hours, a German artillery Oberleutnant directing fire that had already destroyed 3 Sherman tanks. Billy identified him by the radio equipment and map case. Range, 420 yards through heavy snowfall. 1 shot. The observer fell. German artillery immediately fell silent. No spotter meant no accurate fire. American tanks were able to reposition and counterattack successfully. At 0845 hours, German mortar fire hit the church. Shrapnel wounded Parker in the shoulder and left leg. Serious, but not fatal. Parker, bleeding, his face pale. "Billy, I can't spot anymore. Can't hold the binoculars steady. I'm done." Billy applied pressure bandages with shaking hands. "You're going home, Jimmy. You earned it." "What about you?" "I keep shooting until they send me home or I'm dead. Those are the only 2 ways this ends." Medics evacuated Parker on December 17th. As they loaded him onto the stretcher, Parker grabbed Billy's hand. "Billy, listen to me. When this is over, when you finally go home, don't let what we did here eat you up inside. You did what you had to do. You saved lives. Remember that." I'll try. And Billy, tell your father you made him proud. Tell him everything." They shook hands. Parker's grip was weak from blood loss, but his eyes were clear, steady. The same eyes that had spotted for Billy through 8 months of combat, that had read wind patterns in hedgerows and fog, that had documented every shot in that careful handwriting. Billy watched the medics carry his best friend away. The man who had been there since Camp Perry, who had made the joke about rubbers that changed everything, who had called corrections while Billy killed 48 Germans in 2 hours. They never saw each other again during the war. Billy received a new spotter, Corporal Eddie Martinez from Texas, 22 years old, good eyes, steady hands. Not Parker, but competent. February 8, 1945. Raw River crossing. Billy provided overwatch for the river assault, killed 8 Germans attempting to stop the crossing. All shots between 300 and 450 yards, all in rain that would have made shooting impossible 3 months earlier. March 15, 1945. Near Remagen Bridge. A German sniper with a Zeiss scope had killed 3 American soldiers. Battalion called Billy in to handle the problem. The duel lasted 40 minutes. Rhine River mist rolled across the battlefield. The German sniper's superior Zeiss optics fogged completely. He couldn't see. Billy's condom-protected scope remained crystal clear. Final shot at 550 yards. The German sniper fell from his position in a bombed-out building. Martinez marked it in the log. "That's 93 total, Billy. You're done. You've done enough." Billy chambered another round out of habit. "I'm done when the war's over, not before." April 15, 1945. The letter arrived. Billy sat alone in a captured German house, reading words that didn't seem real. His hands shook worse than they had since Mortain. "Brother Thomas, 101st Airborne, killed in action at Bastogne on December 19, 1944. 4 months ago. The letter had taken 4 months to reach him through military mail chaos. Martinez found him an hour later, still holding the letter. "You okay, Billy?" Billy's voice was empty. "My brother's dead. Thomas. He was at Bastogne, December 19th. "Jesus, man, I'm sorry." "I killed 93 Germans." Billy looked at his hands, still shaking, always shaking now. 93 enemy soldiers. Couldn't save my own brother. Couldn't protect the one person who actually mattered. Martinez had no response. There was no response. May 8, 1945. VE Day, Victory in Europe. Billy was in Pilsen, Czechoslovakia when the announcement came. The war was over. Germany had surrendered. All across the city, soldiers celebrated. Drinking, dancing, singing, relief and joy and survival. Billy sat alone in an abandoned apartment, cleaning his rifle. The same ritual he had performed 1,000 times. Disassemble, clean each part, reassemble, check function. He removed the condom from his scope, the same one he had been using since March. Over 200 bullet holes punched through the latex, but still functional, still doing its job. He put it in his pocket, kept it, would keep it for the rest of his life. November 1945, Granville County, North Carolina. Billy Caldwell stepped off the train wearing his uniform, with Staff Sergeant stripes and a bronze star he never mentioned. His duffel bag contained a rifle he would never fire again and a condom with 200 bullet holes he would never explain. His father Frank, now 59 years old, waited at the station. The old man's limp was worse. The years and the work had worn him down. Frank saw his son's eyes and understood immediately. This wasn't the boy who had left. This was someone different, someone damaged. "You're not the same boy who left 4 years ago." Billy's voice was quiet. "No, sir, I'm not." They embraced. Frank smelled like tobacco and soil and home. "Thomas didn't make it," Frank said. "I know, Pa. I should have been there, should have protected him." "You were where you needed to be. You did what you had to do. Thomas would understand that." They drove home in Frank's old truck, the same truck Billy had learned to repair as a teenager. The tobacco fields looked exactly the same. Nothing had changed here. Everything had changed in Billy. June 1946. Billy married Margaret Sullivan, his childhood sweetheart. She was 23, had waited for him, had written him letters every week during the war. On their wedding night, Margaret asked the question she had been holding for months. "Billy, what happened over there? What did you do?" "I did my job, that's all." "Will you tell me someday?" "Maybe. Not today. Not yet." She never pushed. She understood that some things couldn't be spoken. They had 4 children: Frank Jr., born 1947, Mary in 1949, Robert in 1951, Helen in 1954. Billy returned to tobacco farming, worked the same fields his father had worked, never spoke about the war. His children didn't know their father had been a sniper until they were adults in the 1970s. 2 or 3 times every week, Billy woke up screaming. The nightmares were always the same. Faces in the scope, Klaus Weber looking like Thomas, Tommy Morrison bleeding out, 48 bodies in a Norman field. Margaret would hold him until the shaking stopped. "Who are you seeing?" she would ask. "Their faces. All 93 of them. I see them so clearly. I'll never forget them, especially the one who looked like Thomas." He kept the Springfield rifle in the bedroom closet, never fired it again, never even took it out except to clean it once a year. He kept the condom with 200 bullet holes in his desk drawer, showed no one, told no one what it meant. July 4th, 1975, Washington, D.C., Veteran Reunion. Billy Caldwell, 55 years old, attended the 2nd Infantry Division reunion. First time he had been back to any military event in 30 years. He saw Jimmy Parker across the hotel lobby. Parker was 55 now, walked with a cane from the bulge wound, had gone grey early. They embraced, and both men cried. 30 years of silence broken. "Billy, I've told the condom story 100 times over the years, to other vets, to my kids. You're a legend, man, a genuine legend." Billy's voice was heavy. "I don't feel like a legend, Jimmy. I feel like a killer who got lucky. You saved lives, thousands of lives. That matters." The reunion included a veteran exchange program, German veterans attending, building bridges, healing old wounds. Billy was introduced to Hans Müller, 60 years old, living in Munich, still walking, still alive. Müller recognized the name immediately. His face went pale. "You, Mortain, October 23rd, 1944. You were the sniper." Billy's throat was tight. "Yes, I'm sorry." Muller's face showed confusion. "Sorry? For what? For winning? For surviving?" Long silence. Other veterans moved away, sensing something significant happening. Muller's voice dropped. "You killed 48 of my comrades that morning, including my friend Klaus Weber. He was 21 years old, married 6 months to a girl named Greta. He showed me her picture every morning." Billy's eyes filled with tears. "I know. I see him every night, in my dreams. He looked exactly like my brother." They sat together for 3 hours. 2 old soldiers who had been young once, who had killed and survived and carried the weight. Müller described Klaus, loved poetry, wanted to be a teacher, was forced into the Wehrmacht, didn't want to fight but did his duty. Billy described Thomas, loved baseball, wanted to coach kids, volunteered for airborne, died at Bastogne trying to be a hero. "We were both soldiers," Müller said finally. "We both lost people we loved. The war made us do terrible things. Things we'll carry forever." "How do you live with it?" Billy asked. "How do you survive the weight?" Müller was quiet for a long moment. "You don't forget them, you carry them, all of them. And you try to make your life mean something. You try to be worthy of surviving when they didn't." Then Müller said the words Billy had waited 30 years to hear. "I forgive you for Klaus, for all 48 of them, for doing what soldiers do." Billy was crying openly now. "I can't forgive myself." "Then let me carry some of your burden, the way you carried mine all these years." They shook hands, 2 old men who had been enemies, who had killed each other's friends, who had survived. For the first time in 30 years, Billy Caldwell felt something like peace. 1979, U.S. Army Military History Institute. Billy Caldwell, 59 years old, agreed to a recorded interview. The interviewer asked why he waited 34 years. "Because killing shouldn't be celebrated," Billy said. "Even when it's necessary. Even when it saves lives. Taking a human life should never be treated as entertainment or glory. I did what I had to do. I'm not proud of it. I'm just glad some men lived because of it." The interview revealed technical details. How the modification worked, how it spread, the 48 kills at Mortain, the total of 93 confirmed kills over the war. Most importantly, it revealed the psychological cost. Every face stayed with you when you were a sniper. You couldn't forget the men you killed when you saw them so clearly through magnified optics. You saw their expressions, their fear, their humanity. And then you killed them anyway because that was your job. That weight never leaves, never gets lighter. You just learn to carry it. 1988. The US Army adopted the M24 sniper weapon system. The new rifle incorporated lessons learned from World War II, Korea. The design team consulted surviving snipers from all three conflicts. Billy was invited to participate. He was 68 years old, hands still shook. The M24 included sophisticated sealing systems for optical equipment. It also included latex scope covers in the standard kit as backup protection. The lead designer told Billy, "Your 3-cent trick saved thousands of lives. We wanted to honor that, to make sure future generations of snipers have the tools they need." Billy's response was quiet. It was never about honor. It was about staying alive and keeping friends alive. That's the only thing that ever mattered. June 1998. Billy Caldwell was dying. Lung cancer. Decades of working tobacco fields, breathing pesticides and field dust had finally caught up. He was 78 years old. His 4 children gathered around his bed at home. Margaret was there, 75 now, still the girl he had married in 1946. Billy asked for his desk drawer, the drawer he had kept locked for 53 years. Robert brought it. Billy opened it with shaking hands, pulled out a piece of latex with over 200 bullet holes. His children stared at it, confused. "Dad, what is that?" Robert asked. Billy's voice was weak but clear. "This is a 3-cent piece of latex that let me come home to raise you, that let me see you grow up, that let me have the life I had. This is why I survived when better men died." He told them the story, the whole story. Mortain, Tommy Morrison, Klaus Weber, the 93 kills, the weight he had carried for 53 years. Margaret held his hand. "Billy, are you at peace now?" Billy thought about Hans Müller, about forgiveness, about carrying the weight. "I saw Hans in 1975. He forgave me for his friend. That helped. That helped a lot." "But do you forgive yourself?" Long pause. Billy's breathing was labored. "I did my duty. I protected my brothers. I came home to you and the kids. That'll have to be enough. It's all I have." He died on June 15th, 1998. Military honors at the funeral. 21-gun salute. Flag presented to Margaret. Jimmy Parker, 78 years old in a wheelchair, attended. He cried through the entire service. Hans Müller, 83, couldn't travel but sent a letter that was read at the funeral. William Caldwell was a soldier who did what war demanded. He carried the weight of 93 souls for 53 years. Now he can rest. I will remember him as I remember all who fought, with sorrow, with respect, and with hope that future generations never face such terrible choices. 2005. Smithsonian National Museum of American History. Billy's Springfield, 1903-A4, serial number 3426891, was donated to the museum by his children. The display case included the rifle, the condom with over 200 bullet holes preserved in clear resin, Parker's original notebook documenting the 48 kills, and a photograph of Billy, Jimmy, and Bobby from October 1944. The plaque read, "This rifle and latex scope cover represent American military ingenuity at its finest." In October 1944, Staff Sergeant William E. Caldwell improvised a moisture protection solution using a standard-issue condom. This 3-cent innovation spread organically throughout the US Army, multiplying sniper effectiveness in adverse weather. Caldwell's 93 confirmed kills made him one of World War II's most effective marksmen, but he considered himself simply a farmer doing his duty. His innovation symbolizes the democratic culture that empowered soldiers to solve problems independently, a key advantage in America's victory. Cost, 3 cents. Lives saved, 3,000 to 5,000. Return on investment, immeasurable. School groups visit the display regularly. Children giggle at the condom. Teachers explain that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective, that heroes come from tobacco farms in North Carolina, that individual courage and ingenuity can change the course of history. October 23, 1944, 0800 hours, the moment after the killing stopped. Billy Caldwell stood at the farmhouse window, watching Baker Company advance through the field he had cleared. 300 American soldiers moving safely through terrain that would have been a slaughterhouse. 0 casualties. Not one American died that morning in that field. In 108 minutes, Billy had broken every regulation in the book, violated direct orders, modified equipment without authorization, compromised his position, risked court-martial and execution. He had also saved 300 lives that morning, saved thousands more over the following months as the condom trick spread. Changed doctrine, proved that individual soldiers could solve problems that engineers and bureaucrats couldn't. The cost was carried in Billy's hands that shook for 53 years. In the nightmares that never stopped, in the weight of 93 faces he would never forget, in the recognition that came 54 years too late to matter. But the gain was 300 Marines who walked through that field and lived, was 3,000 to 5,000 soldiers who survived bad weather engagements because they could see when the enemy couldn't. Was doctrine changes that save lives today? Was proof that American democratic military culture, trusting soldiers to think and improvise and solve problems, was more powerful than any wonder weapon. Billy would have said it was worth it, would have carried the weight again,
would have made the same choice every time. Because in the end, it wasn't about medals or recognition or glory. It was about Tommy Morrison's daughters knowing their father. About 300 families not getting telegrams. About doing what was right even when regulations said it was wrong. Staff Sergeant William Edward Caldwell, 1920 to 1998. Bronze Star, Silver Star posthumous, 93 confirmed kills, 3,000 to 5,000 lives saved. Cost, 3 cents. I don't care about regulations. I care about saving lives. Those words, spoken in a battalion headquarters tent in October 1944, became his epitaph. They represented everything he believed, everything he fought for, everything he carried. Heroes don't always follow orders. Sometimes they follow conscience instead, and sometimes a 3-cent piece of latex changes the course of a war.